Hello and welcome to Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio. This is Stefan, your host, British by birth, American by choice. The Founding Fathers crafted some remarkable documents that led to the creation of a great country founded on liberty and self-reliance. I have lived in the Euro-socialist nightmare, and I'm doing what I can to return this country to the vision that the Founding Fathers gave us. We need to strive to rebuild that shining city on the hill, for without us, the world has nowhere to turn for freedom. For the next hour, I will be presenting news, views, and guests that help keep the true spirit of America alive. And good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whenever you're listening to the show. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, British by birth, American by choice, welcoming you to episode 284. And as Constitution Day is coming up, I thought it would be nice to hold my annual Constitution Day reading, if you like, Constitution Day show, where I'm going to go through the Constitution, pick out some particular parts of the Constitution that I think are of interest, especially in these times, and give you my views on them. So, welcome to everybody, whether you're listening live, hopefully, or whether you're listening at some later date to one of the recordings or the rebroadcasts. Nice to have you, and hopefully you will learn something from today's show. We're not really going to talk about politics, but we're going to talk about the Constitution, a very important document that most of the people in Washington seem to have forgotten about. Although I think the Democrats haven't, because they spend all their time trying to find how they can get around it. So they know it very, very well, I'm pretty certain. If you are listening live, let me suggest that you join us in the chat room. You can do that by clicking on the little speech bubble in your Spreaker window there. And I see Edward's already there, or Rex as I like to call him. Welcome, Rex from Sin City. Thanks for joining. And anyone else that wants to come there, feel free. We have some interesting times in the chat room. I try to pop in and out as much as I can during the show. And for those of you that are listening to a recording or a rebroadcast a little bit later in the show, I'll let you know how you can contact me and send some information, questions, comments, whatever you would like about the show. So, folks, the Constitution. The Constitution is a very, very interesting document, and if you think about it, it's just a few pages, handful of pages. Compare that to the bills that are being generated by Washington today. Just, on and on and on, whatever it is, 60,000 pages for Obamacare, things like that. I mean, it is just totally ridiculous that the founders could put together such a strong document in such a small amount of words compared to what we use today. And, I'm saying a handful of pages. That, of course, includes the amendments, which is something that was built into the Constitution by the founders, the ability to change it, because they knew that the Constitution could not be totally fixed over its life, and that there would have to be an opportunity to make changes. But they also made sure that making changes had to be a very thoughtful process and had to go through a lot of different checks and balances before you could even amend the Constitution. I think one of the one of the interesting quotes by the founders about the Constitution is one by our dear friend Patrick Henry. Yes, that's right. He of give me liberty or give me death fame. He also said, the Constitution is not an instrument for the government to restrain the people. It is an instrument for the people to restrain the government, lest it comes to dominate our lives and interests. I'm sure he's turning in his grave if he sees how the government dominates our lives and interests today, because we've gone very, very far away from what they intended. Can we get back there? I hope so. We'll see. And we've been joined by someone new in the chat room. Welcome. The Spreaker Tavern Facebook group. Okay, well, I'll have to look into that after the show. But of course now, in the middle of the show, or just started the show, so I'm going to go to the Constitution. And for me, the most important part of the Constitution, and probably the part that most of us know the best, except it seems that the people in Washington seem to have forgotten it, are the first few words of the Constitution, the preamble, where they say, "We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America." And for me, if you want to summarize it even more, most important part there is, we the people. Yes, we the people. We are the ones that set up the Constitution, not Washington. We are the ones who should be interpreting it. We are the ones who decide what it means, not 9 men in black robes. Yes, they're very learned. They can give their opinion. But when we, the people, speak, Washington should listen. Now, of course, they don't right now. What about this Iran deal, right? 70% of the country is against it, and yet the legislators, primarily the Democrats in Washington, vote against it because they've forgotten that we, the people, are the ones who wrote the Constitution, and we, the people, are the ones for whom they work, and not the other way around. So, we the people, which the Congress seems to have forgotten. And what else have they forgotten? Well, let's go then to the amendments, because there's 1 or 2 key amendments. Now, remember, where after the Constitution had been written, in order to get it ratified by the states, a number of states said the Constitution doesn't have enough in it. And so they used the capability that was built into the Constitution to generate amendments. And of course, the first 10 amendments that were added to the Constitution are known as the Bill of Rights. There were actually 12, but only 10 made it through. Only 10 were ratified by enough states to make it into the Constitution. So what were those first 10? Well, most people more or less know what they are, so I'm not going to go through them all. But I do want to go back, because again, this is something that Washington seems to have forgotten. I want to go back to the 10th one, the last one in the Bill of Rights. The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people, So there's that we the people coming back. But do you think Washington follows that? No, they've taken all the powers that they can, because there's so much that's not in the Constitution that Washington thinks it can legislate, regulate, tax, or whatever. And it's not part of it. And folks, we need to have someone who's going to go back and take a look at that. And I don't care if it's by executive order. By executive order, say, okay, we will repeal that law because it is not something that was delegated to the United States by the Constitution. So anything that's not delegated to the United States, not defined by the Constitution, should not have anything to do with Washington. Now, of course, the other big amendment that's sort of in the news today, on and off all the time, is, of course, the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Let's start with that, because that's the one that's creating the most fuss. But the rest of it is also very important, very, very important. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. I think that's fairly clear. Congress is not allowed to make any laws saying that the country has a fixed religion. Does it mean Congress is not allowed to be religious? No. Does it mean local governments are not allowed to be religious? No. Does it mean that schools are not allowed to have any kind of religious teaching? Of course, except Muslim teaching. No, that's not what it says. So all these, the Freedom From Religion Association or group, whatever they are totally way off base when they say there is a separation of church and state. The only separation is that Congress cannot deem and make a particular religion the religion of the United States. Think about it, folks. What did the 10th Amendment say? The powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states. So the only thing that the First Amendment says is Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. It doesn't say that the states can't do that. The states can, or even local government can be involved with religion. So where's this nonsense that there can be no religious things in local in local government? Nowhere. So this is just absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, folks, last week was commercial free, so I'm going to go back to the commercials this week. So bear with me. I will be back after these messages.
You can lose 10, 20, 30 pounds or more with Maximum Slim's first ever rapid weight loss guarantee. Today, you get Maximum Slim, an advanced fat and carb blocker, absolutely risk-free. The all-natural ingredients in Maximum Slim are a powerful weight loss combination. The Maximum Slim formula turns your body into a fat-burning furnace that supercharges your weight loss. Advanced fat and carb blocker stops the breakdown of sugar so your body doesn't store it as fat. Today, you'll get both of these products absolutely risk-free free with no obligation. Only pay shipping. There are no expensive meal plans or exhausting DVDs. Just take Maximum Slim twice a day. It's fast, simple, and now it's guaranteed. Look, you can start losing weight today or not. Go back to your high school days and wear your favorite jeans again. Guaranteed. Call now and get both weight loss formulas free. Call 800-451-0228. 800-451-0228. That's 800-451-0228.
Doc, you gotta give it to me straight.
All right.
'Cause I'm dying here. I mean, take a look at this letter from the IRS.
Oh, my.
This is killing me, Doc. I tell you, it's killing me.
Cheer up, my friend.
Huh?
The tax doctor is here. My diagnosis tells me that you're going to be just fine.
Really?
The tax doctor will not rest until we find you the best possible tax settlement.
Really, Doc?
Guaranteed.
If the IRS claims you owe them $10,000 or more in business or personal back taxes, call a tax doctor right now. We could save you up to 75% if you qualify. Guaranteed or you pay nothing. Call right now for free details.
800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. 800-917-8546. That's 800-917-8546.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet, via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. And thanks for joining me again. After that short break, this is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately. We're into the second quarter. Football season started again. And I don't know why you guys call it football. It hardly ever gets hit with a foot, and it's not really a ball. It's a strange sort of oval thing. But anyway, and football's really played with a round ball that gets kicked with the feet. That's real football. But anyway, we were. Pardon that. Anyway, second quarter, so on we go, talking about the Bill of Rights and the amendments, because they were added immediately after the Constitution was created, because a number of states said this doesn't go far enough, the Constitution, there aren't enough controls in it, and so they wanted the Bill of Rights to be added, and that was kind of their requirement for ratifying the Constitution itself. And of course, it did finally get ratified by sufficient states to be passed, and the amendments also got added to that immediately afterwards. And of course, we've had a number of amendments after the first 10 as well. The interesting thing that I like, if you look at Amendment 12, where they're talking about electing the president and the vice president, and and using electors to vote for the president and vice president, it does not actually say how those electors are to be selected. It leaves it up to the states, and that's a very good example of Amendment 10, that it is up to each state to determine how those electors are selected. Now, of course, we do now use the popular vote to do that by state, but it's pretty interesting. If you see some of the things that they do that, and what happens if you've got an equal number of electors and things like that. It's quite interesting. But let's be sure. The main thing is you do have to have a majority of electors. Remember, it's not a popularity contest. It's not the person that has the most of the popular vote. It's the one who has the most electors. And that is a very unique part of your American Constitution, the way you do elect your president. Is it the best? Is it the worst? I don't think it's the worst. I think one of the reasons that it was put in this way was that the founders wanted to give smaller states still a voice in the elections and allow people to be voted in that weren't necessarily voted by the majority of the popular vote, because that popular vote does give a lot of weight to the large cities, to the urban centres, and would disenfranchise people. And they sort of say, no, you've got to have a full set of, we should switch to a popular vote kind of situation. No, because that was never the intention of the founding fathers. Now, in the original Constitution, and of course we have had an amendment that changed that, unfortunately. The 17th Amendment. But in the original Section 3 of Article 1, the Senate of the United States shall be composed of 2 senators from each state, chosen by the legislature thereof. So that was how it was meant to be. It was meant to be that the states had representation in Washington, D.C. Of course, now senators are chosen also by popular vote in their own state, so they are more political. They would have been very political if they, in the days when they were chosen by the legislators of the state, but it has taken away a lot of the power of the states. And that comes back to that 10th Amendment, right? The power's not delegated to the United States because the senators did not fight for the power for the states. They fought for the power of the federal government because that brought the power to them. And that was really one of the big mistakes that they made. Let's see how we're doing. Okay, we're doing quite well for time. So let's go on to Section 8, because the 10th Amendment says the power's not delegated, but there are powers that are delegated. And they are specifically listed in Section 8. The Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay the debts and provide for the common defense and the general welfare of the United States. Now, of course, a lot of that's very obvious. Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, so all the different kinds of taxes that could be levied. Congress has the power, but later on we're going to see that actually bills that originate around taxes and funding of the government have to originate in the House. And this was a compromise that was added to the Constitution in order to get the Constitution through, because this way it meant that the larger states who wanted the power could direct how the money was going to be spent, and the Senate was then supposed to approve or disapprove of it, which is where the smaller states definitely had a bigger say in the matter, because there was basically 2 votes per state, and whether you're a small state or a large state, you still had the ability to either provide amendments or to basically vote down what the House had sent up. And this was a compromise that was put in there so that the larger states who didn't want to be beholden to and if you like, bullied by the smaller states, but also vice versa. So but the larger states said, okay, if we can originate the funding, if we can originate how the money's spent, but also how it comes in, then the Senate, yes, has an oversight on that, but we want to be able to start it because we feel that as bigger states, we need to have a certain amount of more influence in that. And this was one way to get the larger states to agree to the Constitution. And I see Paul has just joined us. Welcome, Paul. Anyway, now, of course, in that first phrase, the most dangerous words of the whole Constitution are in there. I've said this in a number of shows, and I will continue to say it. It says, provide for the common defense, that's very obvious, and general welfare of the United States. And basically, the regressives have taken that to mean whatever they want. Anything is the general welfare. Anything because they deem that it's good, and therefore it is good for the United States, and therefore it is the general welfare. Well, that's not what the founders intended. The general welfare was indeed the common welfare, the common things that applied to all of the United States. And it wasn't just anything that was good, but just basically how the country stood up in the world. And in other words, that's why it's the common defense and general welfare, in actual fact. Those two go together. They are not separate. Whereas the regressives have taken them apart. Common defense, that's the army. General welfare, well, anything that we do that's for the good of the country is general welfare. And that's not what the intention of that phrase was, at least in my opinion. And I like to think after reading a lot of the Constitution, trying to understand it, have a little bit of understanding, but also an outside view. Congress, so some other things that they are supposed to do. They are supposed to borrow money on the credit of the United States. And that's going to be fun because the debt ceiling limit is coming up again. Are we going to have another fight? Are we going to have another government shutdown? Or are the weak willies in the GOP in Congress just going to cave in to the Democrats again? We'll have to wait and see. Okay, folks, I see it's time for the next commercial break, so bear with me. I will be back after these messages.
Patriot come lately. British by birth. American by choice. Just like the Founding Fathers. The voice of the conservative resistance.
Every day, millions of Americans grow more concerned about the future of our great nation. The truth is, over the last century, a small but powerful collectivist movement known as progressivism has debased our politics, our culture, and our currency. We're just a small step from falling into 1,000 years of darkness, as Ronald Reagan warned. Friend, this is Pat Boone with an important free offer on a hot new book called The Great Withdrawal by Craig Smith and Lowell Ponte. This new book explains how we, the people, can end this fatal detour into big government and get back on the path of faith and freedom charted by our founders. Call now for a free copy of the hot new book called The Great Withdrawal.
Call now for your free copy. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. 800-978-3901. That's 800-978-3901.
Owe $10,000 or more to the IRS that you can't pay? Call now for immediate help. At the Tax Relief Line, we help people just like you. If you take on the IRS alone, you could be facing levies, liens, even wage garnishments, personal or business tax issues. If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, call now and see if you can pay less. They can freeze your bank accounts, even garnish your wages. Call the Tax Relief Line now for immediate help. Our expert team of tax professionals will negotiate your tax problem and deal with the IRS for you. If the IRS is threatening you with levies, wage garnishments, or seizing your assets, call now and see if you can pay the IRS less.
888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043. 888-789-5043.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, keeping the spirit of America alive, a proud member of the Red State Talk Radio Network. And we're back there into the second half of the show, folks. I think tonight is a fairly heavy night. We're looking at the Constitution, talking about different parts. We need a little bit of music, because when we're talking about the Constitution, really there's only one song that we can play, and that is, of course, the song associated with our flag. So, folks, hand on your heart, attention, salute if you're a vet, because here it comes. And this is, of course, that great version by the band called Madison, who were visitors on the show 2 to 3 years ago. I don't know, quite some time ago now. But I really appreciate them as well giving me permission to use this song, because I really think this is one of the best renditions of this great song.
Can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fights, oh, the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets trembling, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land under the frail
So that was the band Madison with a great version of our national anthem. I love listening to that. It's a great. First of all, it's a great song, but also I think it's a great version that they have of it. So hope you enjoyed that, folks. So we'll go back to, we were talking about Section 8. What is it that Congress is actually supposed to do? Well, they're supposed to basically set the taxes, and one thing that was very important, the founders said any taxes shall be uniform throughout the United States. Well, let's look at the wording. They didn't actually say taxes. They talk about Congress shall have the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. But all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. That means taxes do not actually have to be uniform throughout the United States. That's interesting. And that's federal taxes. Maybe we should tax more in California and New York because those states are richer. Of course, they're already getting taxed by their own state governments as well, but wouldn't that be interesting? Let's have a tax on liberalism. That would be a great one. That would not be uniform throughout the United States, but I think that would be a very good way to tax people. Okay, what else? Let's move on. So they can lay and collect taxes and duties, borrow money on the credit of the United States, and we know that Washington's very good at spending our money, and so they have to borrow money to spend, and they do that on the credit of the United States, so Congress has no problem with that part of it. To regulate commerce with foreign nations and among the several states and with the Indian tribes. Now again, this is one where things have sort of got out of kilter because the commerce among the several states, regulating commerce among the several states, this is where we've got these strange laws where they then were able to penalize a farmer for keeping his own wheat because supposedly the fact that he was using his own wheat or selling it or using it for himself and not bringing it into interstate commerce had an effect on the interstate commerce, and therefore Washington, through this very, very tenuous relationship, was able to regulate a lot of things in states that have nothing to do with commerce among the several states. And here's another interesting one. So the next one in Section 8 says to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. This is what Congress is supposed to do. Establish a uniform rule of naturalization. So what did Khalif Hussein, what did King Barry decide he wanted to do? He decided he would change the uniform rule of naturalization and apply his own interpretation of the rules thereof, therefore bypassing Congress, therefore breaking the Constitution. And everyone tells us he was a constitutional professor. He taught Constitution in the University of Chicago there. Well, maybe he does know the Constitution very well, but he certainly does not live it. So, to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, folks, we need someone who's going to go back to these rules. They're not all that difficult, but there are reasons why they were in here. We need for someone who's coming in to go back to these and say, yes, this is what we're going to do. If we look at someone like Trump, he wants the president to establish a uniform rule of naturalization, or is it that? No, he just wants to apply the rules that have already been set up by Congress. So that's good. He has talked about taxing rich people more to help the country get out of debt. The president can make suggestions. Congress, though, has the power. They're the ones that have to do it, so they could. But he can propose it. So is he going around the Constitution? No, because he's proposing to put that to the Congress. That's what he would like to do, though. Let's have a look. Naturalization and uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies throughout the United States. Well, Congress has done that. To coin money, regulate the value thereof, and of foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. Congress has done that. Except they have now kind of given that regulating the value of the coin out of hand and given that to the Federal Reserve, right? A private organization. It's called the Federal Reserve, but just to remind you folks, it has nothing to do with the federal government. It is actually a private consortium of banks. Yes, the head of the Federal Reserve is appointed by the president, but it doesn't actually have anything to do with the federal government. Interesting. So is this another area where Congress has given away its rights and responsibilities to an outside group? Looks like it. Okay, folks, time for our third commercial break. We're slowly getting to the end of this special, this constitutional special show. Let's have our last commercial break, and I will be back shortly.
If you're diabetic, this message could change your life. Is your blood sugar out of control even when you do all the right stuff? Are you afraid of diabetic blindness and the risk of amputation, as well as all those other side effects? Well, you should be. Is there anything that could help manage your blood sugar? Nobetes is a natural supplement that may quickly and dramatically lower your blood sugar.
My name is Bob Corder. I've been using Nobetes for about 3.5 to 4 months now. And in the first 3 months, I've actually lowered my blood sugars from 500s down to 139, and then it dropped to 88 to 93.
My name is Kirsten. I'm a type 1 diabetic, and while taking Nobetes, my blood sugar levels dropped from 295 to 115 in just 1 day.
The FDA hasn't evaluated these statements, and Nobetes isn't intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. But for many, it's helped drop their blood sugar. So if you've been evaluated with high blood sugar, don't delay. Evaluate Nobetes now. Call 800-424-3790 and get 2 bottles free. Just cover shipping and handling. Call 800-424-3790. That's 800-424-3790.
The offer of a franchise can only be made through delivery of a franchise disclosure document. Imagine yourself being a leader in America's fastest growing demographic category. More than 10,000 people a day turn 65, and a large percentage are going to need a helping hand at home or in choosing the right assisted living community. Always Best Care is looking for people who've excelled at everything they've done, but they're seeking a new challenge. Always Best Care is one of the fastest growing companies in this explosive field. We're looking for 25 new franchisees to keep our booming business growing. We'll back you up with the strongest award-winning marketing program in the industry, and we'll provide the special training and support that's fueled our growth to prepare you for this great opportunity. All that's missing is you. Call Always Best Care toll-free at 1-800-643-7508. That's 1-800-643-7508. For Always Best Care, 1-800-643-7508. Call today.
This is Patrick Come Lately Talk Radio, coming to you live via the internet via rebroadcast on WRSDB, the Red State Talk Radio Network, or from the recordings at archives.patrickcomelately.us. Okay, folks, it is the final quarter of the show. This is, of course, the Constitution special that I always have this part of September. We have the September 11th show first, and then just about a week later we have this Constitution special, which, because of Constitution Day, which is coming up September 17th, and let me recommend, if you can, if you have the time, why not take your copy of the Constitution and make contact with a local school and go and spend a day talking with the school kids about the Constitution. If I remember rightly, there is actually a federal law. Again, whether or not it's constitutional, I don't know. There is a federal law saying any school which takes federal money does actually have to spend some time on Constitution Day, September 17th, teaching the children in school, and that can also be colleges, etc., about the Constitution. And we don't teach our children enough about the Constitution. All they're told it's an old document, it's set up by old white men who were slave owners and therefore can't be right, because that's what the regressives would like us to think. Anyway, let's go back to Section 8, because I just wanted to mention, there's a whole lot of things there about establishing post offices and post roads, which I guess you could sort of say the interstates represent, promoting the Patent Office, and I'm not going to go the exact words, constitute tribunals inferior to the Supreme Court. So these are the different federal district courts. To define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offences against the law of nations. Now, is that a good part of the Constitution that we could use to actually say, don't you think ISIS is committing offences against the law of nations, burning people alive, raping and enslaving women? We complain about the waterboarding, and yet the other day I saw a picture of ISIS prisoners in a cage being drowned to death by sinking that cage in water, and we worry about waterboarding. So offences against the law of nations, let's use that one to fight something like ISIS. To declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules concerning captures on land and water. So how can Obama, again, do anything about Gitmo? Because it's not his purview. It's the purview of Congress. It's specifically, remember, Amendment 10 says those things delegated to the federal government, to the United States. And this is very specific in the Constitution. And they also talk about raising and supporting armies, maintaining a navy. No mention of the Air Force, which is perhaps why for a long while it was always called the Army Air Force. And to make rules for the government and regulation of the land and naval forces. So they set up the rules for them. To provide for calling forth the militia to execute the laws of the Union, suppress insurrections, and repel invasions. Repel invasions. Okay, folks, let's use the National Guard to keep people out of the states while that wall is being built that Trump wants to build. We can use the National Guard. It says here, calling forth the militia to repel invasions. So why don't we use it? Why doesn't Congress do its job? And of course, it also allows for Congress to provide for organizing, arming, and disciplining the militia, and for governing such part of them as may be employed in the service of the United States, reserving to the states respectively the appointment of the officers and the authority of training the militia according to the discipline prescribed by Congress. In other words, yes, we can have militias. The officers are appointed by the states, and they will be trained according to rules set up by Congress. That sounds pretty much National Guard, yeah, sounds pretty good. And then, of course, to exercise exclusive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may be by cession of certain states and acceptance of Congress, become the seat of government of the United States. So they're already talking about setting up Washington, D.C. And to exercise like authority over all places purchased by the consent of the legislature of the state in which the same shall be, for the erection of forts, magazines, arsenal, dockyards, and other needful buildings. Yes. Again, that sounds like the Constitution. That happens. Can't really see anything like that. And finally, what else does the Constitution specifically mention? To make all laws that shall be necessary and proper for carrying into execution the foregoing powers. So only laws necessary for the foregoing powers, the ones mentioned above, and all other powers vested by this Constitution in the government of the United States or any department or officer thereof. So only those things which are specified by the Constitution. Whereas nowadays, Washington just thinks they can do everything. Okay, how are we doing for time? Well, folks, we're slowly getting to the end of the show. What else? The Constitution has so many good parts to it. I can't understand why people in America don't understand this document better and insist that their legislators in Washington understand it better. We're asleep at the wheel. We just let these guys get away with, whatever they like in Washington. That is our mistake. We need someone who's going to come back and start living this and telling the people in Congress to live it as well. Well, it's going to be interesting to see the debates coming up tomorrow. It's going to be fun. Apparently, everybody's going to be ganging up on the leader there, who's still quite far ahead. We've got Mr. Brash against Mr. Quiet, pretty much, and the two of them have pretty much a majority of the polling, 50% or more right now, and everybody else is down in single digits. Can you imagine that? Everybody else is just down in single digits. Absolutely unbelievable. But anyway, let's see. One reason why we need to get back to the Constitution. And let me just play one clip from probably one of our greatest presidents. He wasn't perfect, but he was probably one of the best that we had.
If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
Exactly. And we are losing freedom here. We need to fight to get it back. Okay, folks, well, hopefully you can join me again next week. It's time to say TTFN. I've enjoyed talking to you, and back to the news and views next week. Thank you for listening to the show. I hope that you enjoyed tonight's topics. Whether you listened live, to a recording, or to a rebroadcast, I appreciate the time you share with me. We need to spread the message of liberty far and wide, so please tell your friends and family about the show. Thank you for helping to keep the beacon of hope burning. This is Stefan, your Patrick Come Lately, signing off. God bless America, and remember, L3, long live liberty.